Hey everybody, Dave Hall here with Agoge Fitness Systems and Mental Meatheads, bringing in another Mental Meatheads interview. Today I've got on the line Belton Lubas. Belton is he's a level 2 underground strength coach, and we were just talking about him being involved with Z Health. He runs a gym. You're on the West Coast, right, Belton?
Yeah, I'm in Seattle.
Okay, up in Seattle, a mixture of strength training and martial arts training, and already I can tell that we're going to hit it off really well. He's a really cool dude.
Yeah.
So, Belton, go ahead and say hey.
Hey guys, how you doing? Belton here from Seattle.
Nice. So, give me a little bit about your background. How old are you now?
I'm 38.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did you get into this whole beautiful thing we call the fitness world?
So I went to Oregon State. I grew up in Guam. So I was born and raised in Guam, 18 years of my life. I wanted to leave the island. I knew if I stayed home, I'm just going to get into the same rut. So I followed somebody up here. I was in a relationship at the time, and
Right
I
on.
Oregon State. So at Oregon State, I knew I wanted to do something within the medical health field. So I started physical therapy. So that's actually was my undergrad. So as an undergraduate degree, I was studying physical therapy. At the same time, I'm learning all the stuff about the human body. You know, we talked about anatomy,
Mhm.
physiology, biomechanics of human movement. So I'm like, hey, how cool it would be just to be a trainer. So I was the lead trainer at Oregon State at the time. So at Oregon State, being the lead trainer, I was basically practicing what I was learning. Really diving into this world called fitness. And I started having kind of like an epiphany. I would do my hours needed to get for my master's in PT. So before I applied, I would have so many hundreds of hours, and then I was training at the school gym, and I felt like I was getting more results training my fellow classmates, my professor, whatever it was, and then I was looking at the insurance world and the PT world, and I got really discouraged, man. I was like, I don't think I want to do that. I would
Yeah.
see this lady walk in. I tell the story all the time. This lady walk in, she's like 260, her knees hurting, and I was kind of doing PT aid stuff, and the PT would be like, do this, do that. I'm like, yeah, she just needs to lose weight. I was like, I go, really? Are we going to start? So it kind of, I don't know, man. It didn't sit well with me. So I basically dropped that. I was pursuing my master's in healthcare administration, still training. I would drive 2 hours to go to Oregon State for 3 days for my master's program, then drive back up north to Portland and train. So I started in actually the big box gyms. I won't say.
Yeah, we all did.
I started there, management, moved up into a higher level management, ran gyms in Provo, Utah, Portland, and they brought me out here in Seattle to grand open a big club. I did that 2 years. Just to give the history, I was getting married 777, and the VP of fitness at the time, I pretty much asked him, I go, answer me 3 questions, and I'll move up. I'll take the higher up. First, I also told them they can fire me if I ever miss goal below 100%. Never miss goal. So, I was kind of successful, I guess you can say. But the way I was successful, I wasn't just a sales guy. I was a results provider, I guess you can say. So people buy sessions because you provide good results. But I asked him, I go, in the position I'm looking at, answer me this. Name a person in that position that's married, has kids, and is still hitting over 100%. Basically, I wanted somebody who was successful, that wasn't worried about losing their job. I
Yeah.
wanted somebody who was actually, married, because that's what I was looking at, and also has a family. And they couldn't really answer that question, so I said, here's my 30-day notice, peace.
Yeah.
2 months before my wedding, 30-day notice, left a six-figure income, and pretty much said, sorry, babe, And if anybody knows,
I hope you love me.
like, what? I mean, she wasn't working at the time, but I put a lot of faith and trust in my skill sets and whatnot. But if anybody knows the fitness industry, if you're in high-level management, you don't train as much.
Yeah.
So when you really leave the big box industry, if you were there as a trainer and you leave, you get 30, 40 clients with you, whatever, right? But as a manager, I had like maybe a couple. So I really had to put my skills to the test on marketing, providing results, being that guy out there and hitting, putting my nose to the grind. So first month in, hit $7,000 in gross in training, and literally first month, and I just kept going from there. I rented out a facility, business partner at the time. We were just renting, and then we opened up a gym in 2009. 2012, him and I split up. I was kind of more the martial arts guy, whatever. So we split up, just had some differences, and moved on. And so then he's doing his thing, I'm doing mine, and I'm currently renting out of a place that was a guy that used to rent from me. So it's kind of funny how that circle of life. So he used to rent from me, like, hey man, can you help me out? I'm leaving the big box gym too, and now he has a 5,000 square foot facility. I'm sitting in it. I'm renting, and now I'm looking at 3,600 square feet. I don't want to say anything yet. We'll see what happens, but if it does, it does. I'll put that in God's hands, and we'll see what happens after that.
We'll keep our collective fingers crossed for you, man. That's very cool, though.
And if that happens, awesome. It's not just going to be a fitness facility. It's going to be Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, Filipino martial arts / underground strength gym. So
nice.
Kind of that mixture. So that's where I'm heading.
Yeah, very cool, very cool. I'm always excited to talk to trainers with a martial arts background, because that's where I came from. I came from martial arts into fitness, and I think we have kind of a unique perspective on the body and on training in general. Yeah. And so, speak to me a little bit about your martial arts and about that influence in your life and in your work. When did you get started? Where did you start? Would you start in? Would you start studying? That sort of thing.
So, in '94, I graduated high school. I moved up to San Jose, California. I wanted to get into martial arts. I don't know anybody that's from Guam that hasn't fought. In other words, in the street. I think
I'm just going to throw this out here, man. And you can take it for what it is, but I don't think people realize how much Asians fight. I mean, you guys throw down. I got. I started my martial arts career in Tai Chi, of all things, in my 20s, and my instructor was Chinese. He was from the Wuhan province of China, and every time he went home, dude teaches Tai Chi, man. Every time he went home, he would get in a fight.
Every summer in college, I tell the story, I always got into a fight every summer. And it was kind of like expected. I don't know what it was, because I was, again, the new guy, the new face. So then a lot of these kids that were maybe, I don't know, back sophomores when I was a senior, suddenly, their sisters were like my friends or whatever. And I don't know, it's just, I go into the bars and like, who's the statesider? And if you ask any Islander, I don't know, if you're an Islander and you haven't had beef with somebody, because you're either defending your village, defending your family name, defending some stupid, idiotic cousin that did stupid stuff, or you just looked over at the wrong moment, and you're like, oh man, here goes. You got beef, It's like, man, that's too pot, So when I went in '94, when I went up to San Jose, I wanted to get into martial arts, and I checked out Kaji Kempo, I mean, you name it. Definitely some of the more commercial type things. I didn't want to get into that. I wanted something practical. And my sister goes, hey, you should check this guy out. He has just started from a garage. Now he's renting a place. I said, what is it? It says American Trap Fighting. I go, trap fighting? What the hell are they trapping, So I was like, all right, I'll go check it out. I was 18 years old. I remember walking over there and have a car, and Eric Karwowski was his name, and I said, what's this all about? He goes, I always get into a lot of fights. I'm with Ernie Rages Sr. I was Ernie Rages Jr.'s. I grew up with the guy, and I'm a second or third degree Taekwondo. But every time we go on the street, some guy would be like, Hapkido rules, Taekwondo. So they would fight Judo. They would find out the inefficiencies or the lack of what his art provided. And so he was researching the cause of his own ignorance, I guess, kind of taking a JKD mindset and really applying throws for judo, BJJ for grappling. And so we were under one of the Gracies. We did some boxing, we did some Muay Thai, some Chinese boxing, and pretty soon it became this thing called MMA. And that wasn't a word back then.
Yeah.
When I was 1994, I was 18. UFC was still in single digits, like I think 6, UFC 5 or 6. Because we sent one of our guys to UFC. He was Polar Bear Paul Varlins, UFC 6, and I used to train with him. And he was 320 pounds and like 6'8". So
Wow.
we didn't even have MMA gloves, so we were just barefisting. I mean, we would hit each other. Just it was brutal, man. I mean, after a while,
Dude.
we started talking about taking gloves and just cutting holes because I mean, I broke two ribs, not mine. I broke somebody else's ribs, and some of these guys, I mean, we would hit the ground, and then when we grapple, it's like it was a whole different world. So I
Yeah.
remember a lot of my classmates were black belts from different school systems, and they wanted to try something else. They were also stuck in that mindset, so they wanted to kind of pursue it. But they would take me out to the bars. I was 18. So then after class, they're like, "Hey, Belton, come on, let's roll with us." I'm like, "Where are we going?" They're like, "Don't worry about it. Wait outside." I'm like, "What are we doing?" He goes, "We got to test the skills." So these guys come out the bars, and we're like, "Bah, bah, bah, bah," and I'm like, "Oh, man, this is not good." So um, that's where I started, and I got a taste for
That's
MMA.
a hell of a start, man. Jesus Christ, man.
The grown ass men and bare fisting each other, and so it was kind of cool experience. But every time somebody come to the school and say, "What the hell is this crap about? What about style? What about culture?" And my teacher would say, "Culture. This is streets of America. This is culture, you know." And he said, "You style. You want to do dance forms? Do kata." You know. He goes,
Yeah.
"This is practical stuff." And so he would always use me as an example. He's like, take on that guy right there. He's new, and so we go at it, and then we hit the ground. But they didn't have any Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you know. So
Yeah.
that was kind of cool. Now, fast forward, I was at Oregon State, and I went to Straight Blast Gym, and I saw Randy Couture training there. I think it was his first fight he won. And I'm like, "Who's that guy?" They're like, "Oh, that's Randy Couture." I'm like, "Oh, okay, whatever." So I didn't know, like, okay. So I would train there, but as a college student, I didn't have enough money. It was
Uh-huh.
$8 a month. I mean, at the other school, I mean, I was doing the typical Uki student kind of cleaning, mopping and
Mhm.
this and that. I would show up early, stay late. But fast forward again, so then now we're looking. There was literally a 10-year break. So 94, then 2000, 94, then 96, and then literally 10-year break. And I was walking by and I see this guy doing sticks, and he's doing pa 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 pa. And I'm like, stick work. I go, wait a minute, I'm Filipino, but I was born and raised in Guam, and I'm like, I think that's my culture. I'm pretty sure that's my stuff, right? So it's kind of like I felt like it was calling me out. It's like you're Filipino. Granted, you weren't born in Philippines, but you're born and raised in Guam, and not only you're Filipino, you're Visayan. And if you look at the history of the stick fighting, a huge portion of the stick fighting and some of the blade arts came from the southern Philippines. So I kind of almost felt like this calling and this need to kind of
Yeah.
to my culture and more so the art. I love martial arts anyway. So I joined this group. He only had like three students. It was me and three others, four. And he said, if you're doing that, you have to do the Muay Thai. And I was like, all right. So I was under Thai Boxing Association for a while and did that. So I did Muay Thai TBA. The BJJ came way later. Even though I was already doing BJJ years ago, it was a client said he wanted to check out an MMA gym, and I was like, "No, man, don't check out the MMA gym. There might be stuff. Let me scope it out for you, right?" So I roll up in there, and there's a Gracie Baja gym. I'm like, "Oh, it's a Gracie." I'm like, "Dude, I love this stuff." So I ended up joining. He never joined. I joined. So
That's funny.
that was the third part of my art. Now, things changed. I am now under a coach under USICA, United Southeast Asian Cultural Association, as a Muay Thai coach. I've got fighters who fight underneath me. I've trained and helped MMA fighters, both pro level and amateur. And that was kind of interesting because I would basically help out with the underground strength training, explosivity, power, strength, all that stuff. And they're like, "Oh, you hold pads too?" I'm like, "Yeah, yeah." So I hold pads too, and they're like, and you know how you don't want to correct them because they got their own coach.
Yeah, yeah.
You kind of want to do this and that, but then they appreciated it. So suddenly I started dabbling more in that world. Not in the coaching, I was more just a martial artist myself.
Yeah.
I found Kelly Warden. So then that was the Muay Thai kickboxing kind of thing, and then the BJJ I started doing. I found Kelly Warden at a seminar, and Grandmaster Richard Bustillo, who was under Bruce Lee.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had the luxury to train with Dino Santo, Bustillo, Jesse Glover. I mean, some big names in the JKD world, and I'm very fortunate to have met these men and many other great men before me. But I was at a seminar, and he points to me. I was like, "Hey, Filipino boy," and I was like, "Hey, Sifu, Sigun, yes sir." He's like, no, 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 no. You don't partner with that girl. She's not good. And I was like, what? I go, I invited her to the seminar. Go with that guy. And I'm like, all right. So I walked over. I'm like, and I introduced myself. He's like, yeah, my name's Kelly. And I'm like, all right, okay, Kelly, whatever. So I did the sticks on, pop, 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 and I was like, this is the pattern we're doing. I thought it's literally, I thought it was just an old guy who wanted to learn martial arts. And he manhandled me. I mean, just, I know later who he was. Somebody whispered to me and goes, dude, that's Kelly Warden. And I was like, oh. Face. He is under Grandmaster Remy Preces. He is Datu Kelly Warden, the first awarded Datu title. And if you're awarded a Datu, it's a Filipino chieftain tribe term. He was the first white guy, first American ever. And so his blade is sick. He's a dangerous man. And so I went, I want your stuff. I want to be under you. And so I, pursued him. He's my main instructor. Since then, I've dabbled in Sayok Kali. I've dabbled in Eskrima, Lameko. I've dabbled with now with Pikita Tertia under Grand Tuhon. And Balintawak with Guru John Soriano. So the FMA world is kind of this weird. I mean, there's all these tribes and all these different families, and then an angle is an angle, right? A slash is a slash. Yeah. Different systems just have a little different focus, whether they're in close quarter, little different ranges. They all have it. I mean, one system is real close because they learned the guy that he learned under the grandmaster. The grandmaster at the time was in prison, so everything was real close quarters. So. For people who don't know out there, when you say Filipino martial arts, think Jason Bourne, think Mission Impossible, think all that kind of stuff. Fast, close quarter. Yeah.
Actually, yeah, I was thinking that, and that's something that I've noticed a lot lately. Is that I mean, if it's a guilty pleasure of mine, the action movie, the physical hero. It's just a great way for me to unwind and just watch shit get blown up and people fight. It's just, I enjoy it a lot. And Filipino martial arts have really taken over what Hollywood considers to be a fight now. I don't know if you've seen the Arrow on the I don't even know what they're calling it now, CW or whatever. But yeah, all the martial arts there is if he's not shooting an arrow, man, it's Filipino knife and stick work. Exactly. I don't know if you saw Winter Soldier, the new Captain America movie, but there's, I mean, like if they're not shooting, man, they went for the knife, and they're like, holy shit, I've seen that shit before. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So
and also like the Raid 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that yet, but.
Oh, we gotta watch it, man. It's a little Indonesian Silat based, but the Silat had a lot of influence too with the Filipino martial arts. Yeah, the Filipino martial arts has actually Chinese influences, has a lot of influences, but they kind of went, okay, you know what, we're gonna make it this. And what they went through in the late 1800s all the way through the early 1900s with Spanish, American, and Japanese, the wars that they've experienced in the jungle, guerrilla warfare, which leads me to that whole fundraising thing, is it's amazing. I mean, the blade art is beautiful because I use it even in Muay Thai, the outside passing, and I'm like, boom, pop. That's really a thrust. I mean, that's a thrust into the abdomen. But who says that can be a fist,
Yeah.
So they call it empty hand techniques because it doesn't matter whether you are, there's a scissor, whether I'm holding a scissor here this way, or a pen, and there's that one scene in Jason Bourne where he has I mean, just everyday items and your cell phone. I mean, it just gives you all this level of confidence. You're walking through a parking lot, just grab stuff out of your pocket, and it's just a pen. You're like, dude, I can do a lot of damage with this pen right now.
Yeah.
So I did that. So with everything going on right now, I coach Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for the beginners because I'm not a black belt. I'm still just a two-stripe blue. Quite a while. So because I remember.
If people don't know, that's a very slow art to progress in, man. It takes a long. They don't play, man. They they make you earn everything that you get there. That's
1 year for one stripe for my blue. My professor is a 5-time world champ. I think she's a 7-time Brazilian champ, and she's also a 2-time Pan American gold.
All right, so man.
Learning from a woman who's 5'2", because I'm 5'6". Her game isn't all about power. It's finesse and technique, which I love. Don't get me wrong. I can go strong all day, but man, technique is so important.
Well, it's funny because I'm actually, I don't know if you can tell by the camera and everything, but I'm 6'2" and 250 pounds, and so I'm a big burly dude, right? but I'm always drawn towards those arts for which being big and burly doesn't serve me, right? So when I was training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I would make sure that I would do my weight training right before class, so that I
Oh,
was already fatigued. And part of the reason was is because I was rolling with guys who were all smaller than me.
yeah.
So I was literally the biggest guy in the class most of the time, and so I wouldn't learn anything if I was overpowering people. Being
Hmm.
able to to give up and try to learn technique and flow and that sort of thing
Yeah.
was really important. Um, right now I'm learning a Muay Thai lineage Wing Chun,
Okay.
which is totally a little man's art. I mean,
Oh, wow, yeah.
it's not something, and so that's providing its own challenges.
Mm,
I mentioned that I'm doing some stick and knife stuff, and
yeah.
so and that's all about just flow and being able to sensitivity and being able to redirect, in the middle of a motion. I mean, oh, there's an obstruction. Well, I'm going around that and heading this way, and that
Exactly.
sort of thing. So
That's
I
great.
appreciate that. That's really cool.
And what's cool is you got a Muay Thai art where you're here and you're like, you know what, just bang, 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 pop, 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 bang, bang, bang. But I teach my guys, I'm like, if you do the knife arts, you don't get hit because you don't want to get stabbed. So
That's right, man.
you're ducking, you're parrying, so it makes you more agile, more quicker. So there's a lot of things that even I was because you and I are both strength coaches, we're performance coaches, and when you take the martial artists, it's pretty unique. Guys like you and I, because there's stuff in martial arts that can be applied across the board, and
Mhm.
most of the mindset, the mentality, because people say, oh, in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it's hard to take Belton's back. I go, well, there's a reason why, because I gave my back up so many damn times, choked out many damn times. So, you get better at failing a lot. And
Yeah,
so, if your hands are up and you get slapped, you're like, oh, I better keep that hand up. So,
yeah,
same thing too, in the reps that we do where we have perfect, in Z Health we talk about the perfect rep principle. So you do so many perfect reps, you nearly connect that to your body, your mind, and everything is just without thinking. So applying that in martial arts, applying that in fitness too. I mean, kettlebell is a little bit it's a technical based type of fitness program design rather than just let's just do a let me just push this. With
Mhm.
kettlebells and certain things with kettlebells that you do, and I'm under Kenneth J. I actually forget to mention that too. Rotational swings, and Kenneth J. the Viking Warrior, his swings are different. It's not hard style, soft style. It's rotational style, and to be able to do that, I love it for my fighters because you have this rotation movement throwing the kettlebells when you're in a 45-degree split stance and coming back up into either a clean or a snatch. I mean, it takes a lot of technique, but you got to fail so many times before you actually get it right. And so, there's a reason why, and the learning curve can be cut down short with the more perfect the perfect form, the perfect rep are applied because you can do 5 perfect reps. It beats trying to do 25 half-ass reps.
Right
Um,
on.
my martial arts game did start early, but there was so much of a gap, and when I picked it back up, and where I'm at right now as far as being an instructor in certain systems, I would say, putting all modesty aside, I've got there a lot more faster as an instructor because of the amount of, connecting that, what I'm seeing, what I'm mimicking, the vision, the vision of what I'm seeing, the picture, the perfect reps, and modeling it after somebody like your high level grandmasters and mimicking perfect movement. But if you, yeah, I mean, did you play sports?
A
You
little
ever,
bit, a little bit.
you play
Actually, I
sports with
came in late, man. So
you
go
ever
ahead.
play a sport like basketball or even, I grew up in Guam, so volleyball was huge. But if you play volleyball with just half-ass people, you half-ass play.
Yeah.
Then you higher level people, you tend to mimic good movement, or even people who've never played basketball sees an NBA game and they see somebody juke somebody. They're like, man, that was an awesome move. How do they know? They've never done an awesome move, but your brain knows perfect movement. So
Yeah.
trying to take those principles of Z Health, martial arts, fitness, and try to conglomerate that, it just elevates yourself as a trainer or whatever you want to call yourself. So I take
Very
that
cool.
stuff from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm always personally concerned when I'm the most skilled person in the room, or
Yeah,
if I'm the strongest guy in the room. It's I mean, I enjoy teaching very much, and so it's it's a spiritual path. It's a it's a calling to share the knowledge that I have, but I don't want to spend all of my time in the room where I'm the top dog, because
Mhm.
if I'm limited in what I can learn at that point. You know, I'm looking for somebody who's gonna give me a run for my money, who's gonna kick my ass a little bit so that I can learn from that.
Yep.
So I applaud and appreciate that. Tell me about you mentioned Z Health. For anybody who's not in the know, tell us a little bit about that because I'm very fascinated by this.
So I found Z Health at uh, geez, one of those seminars. You know, as fitness professionals, we go to
Hmm.
all these conventions, seminars. Sometimes it's the same old crap. I mean, I have to admit, man, it's the same old crap. You
Oh yeah,
just
yeah, absolutely.
upstage is, just let us do his thing, and then he's gonna sell you his crap later. So I'm like,
Yeah.
but it's nice.
Unless it's a mental meatheads workshop. Let me throw that out there because we
What's
are
that?
above and beyond the pale, man. We don't play with that conventional crap. You're always going to learn something new
So,
from us.
so muscle activation techniques. I'm an MAT guy. So muscle activation is where the best way to explain it. If you had five muscles right involved in a movement, instead of looking at where the site of pain or what we think is the limited range of motion, if I can't extend my elbow and I'm like, oh, your biceps tight, that's why. Let's stretch out the bicep. Let's stretch it out. Let's stretch it out. I go, how do you know it's the bicep? How do you know it's not the tricep not giving enough feedback to the bicep to let go? So muscle activation techniques kind of talks about that, but they do it from a muscular perspective. And so because of that understanding, I ran into Dr. Cobb at his booth at one of those places, those things again, and I talked to him, and I was like, whoa, this is even deeper. It goes beyond that. It says, hey, the brain is the command center of all things, and if we can basically clear up these fuzzy maps. So our whole body's mapped out, right? I
Hmm.
mean, everything's a map. Everything's connected, right? So if there's a lost signal or a fuzzy signal, and the brain is just like, I'm not really sure what's going on, it'll put the brakes on things, and so injuries happen, limited range of movements happen, and or lack of efficient performance. So if you're working with a high level athlete, and you're like, the high level athlete comes to you and says, I need to improve my game, I want to be here, but I'm just not getting this one thing, this one move. So as a Z Health professional, we don't say, well, let's just make you stronger, let's just make you quicker, let's go stretch you more, let's do some fascial stretch therapy. They say, well, what's going on in the brain, and find out how we can fix that. So if it's a tennis player, sometimes we work in visual drills. So we do stuff with the vision. So the neural hierarchy of things, you got proprioception, vision, and vestibular. We'll work on those three main things and find out where we want to work on. The vision is always top because that's the most input received. And so with the tennis player, we might do some stuff with the tennis ball. We write letters and we just kind of do some tosses, and they have to call out the letter as they see it. So they're getting acclimated to tracking the ball much more properly. That could be one perspective of Z Health. Another one could be where a person says, I'm having limited range of motion, and we'll clear up their map using mobility exercises. We'll do barrier testing. We'll check and see if there's something wrong with their fascia that's giving signals back to the brain that's not clearing things up. Or it could just be somebody who's just getting back into fitness, and they're 65 years old and they have lack of mobility, and we'll do simple drills, hip mobility movements. We'll do stuff in their ankle tilts, ankle circles, things like that. So it depends on the client, but I think the best way to explain Z Health is saying, if the brain is the command center of all things, let's look at it from the brain, and then from there we can use either mobility, we can use vision, we can use vestibular, and we can find a way to attack it that best serves the client, whether it's they're in pain, and pain is just a signal, right? So if we can fix that, we can fix pain, or we can increase range of motion and or improve performance. So thinking of the brain rather than the site of pain, or looking at the joint or the muscle, but saying what's going on in the brain. It could be something that happened 5 years ago too. It could have been a car accident. They looked left, they're turning left. Suddenly everything on the left side is not, what's going on
Hmm.
while they're looking left. And every time they look left, they feel pain, or they lack range of motion. So it gets deeper, and we call it the rabbit's hole because it does get kind of way into the rabbit's hole, and when it does, people are like, okay, this is way too much. But as a fitness professional, I suggest, if you're searching to that, go to like an essentials course, and it's great. They'll do a lot of muscle testing, and you'll just your jaw will drop. You're like, are you kidding me? You know, like I thought I was a strong guy. They'll do a muscle test and they'll do something, tweak you, maybe just give you a jam joint, and you find out you're not that strong. And why are those signals weak? And how do we clear up more of those signals? How do we clear up those maps? So it's kind of
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. The interplay between all of our different qualities of being human, you know, both the mental, the emotional, the physical, and how those, you know, cross map and move back and forth it's something that fascinates me. And so yeah, very, very cool. I'm excited to hear that you're doing that work. I'm excited to learn about it, and definitely will be looking into it more myself. That's very cool stuff. You have the opportunity to go to the Philippines and study martial arts, Filipino martial arts.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that. That sounds freaking awesome, man.
So I've always wanted to do a pilgrimage back home where my grandmother is right now. My grandmother raised me. She moved to Guam to help out with my parents, but I was at a seminar, and if anybody knows who Grand Tuhon Leo Gahi is, he's trained. He's the founder and the sole inheritor to the Pikita Tertia system. And Pikita Tertia is a Kali-based. It's a Kali art. It's a blade system, and when I emphasize blade, everything they do is blade. You see stick fighting, but they emphasize the stick as a blade, which most Filipino martial arts do anyway.
You can't begin to learn how to fight with a knife, right? You got to start with something blunt.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't get very far. I wouldn't get very far. My training would be, you know, very limited if they put a blade in my hand and said, okay, here we go, we're gonna start.
And some systems start with just footwork, man. Just like learn your footwork, and that's key to everything. But I was at a seminar. I've always wanted to meet the man, the legend himself, and one of the pioneers of the Filipino martial arts systems. He was in the Fight Quest, that, you know, the two guys go.
Yeah. I know that show.
Remember the Filipino martial arts section? He was the one that poured chicken blood on the guy, and the guy's like, you know. So go look it up. Yeah, and he's also in a BBC documentary and stuff like that. So I meet the guy, and I find out through my dad that we might partially be related, you know, through marriage within the family. Where he lives is about an hour away from where my grandfather moved. My grandfather moved to Guam, but where they're from. And so in the seminar, we just kick it off. And, you know, I'm already familiar with Filipino martial arts because an angle is an angle is an angle, right? So I don't know what it was. It was me. It was being Filipino, or maybe my movements. But he just kind of pulled me aside and goes, I want you to come to the Philippines. And I was like, oh, okay. So the Grandmaster calls. What do you say? Nah, let me look at my stuff.
Yeah, dude, you go.
You know, I got something important. I got a coffee. So I was like, shoot, yes, sir. And I'm like, crap, how am I going to make this happen? I just said yes. Kind of one of those things, too. Sometimes you just say, you know what, I'll be there, you know. Zach Evans preaches that a lot, you know, just do it, you know. So speaking of Zach, let me just shout out to Zach. And one of the reasons why I gravitated towards Zach, it's because he already has that martial arts mentality in his head, that spirit about him, that warrior spirit. So when you take certifications from people, make sure it's kindred in the same sense of like the people you surround yourself with, because I'd rather learn from a man who has that. I mean, he may not be a martial artist per se, like a traditional, but man, everything about him is. I don't know if that makes sense to some of you guys.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
Meet Z, you'll know what's up.
Yeah.
I had the privilege of being with him, Isaac Wilkins, Mike Rojas, Ryan Reese, Trav. I mean, those are the guys I got certified with, man.
Yeah.
Sincere Hogan. I mean, we were a crazy crew. Yeah.
That's a tight group, man. Those every one of those guys is building a name for themselves. So that was a good crew to come through.
Yeah, definitely. So going back, so anyway, mad props to Zach, and I know you share the same.
Absolutely, man.
Guy. So Grand Tuhon, when he asked me to go, I kind of just said I had to, you know. So December 7th to the 20th, I'll be, from what I understand, because I don't know, but I'll be in the jungle, learning guerrilla tactical warfare. I'll be training a rapid response team, special forces in Philippines, special forces Indonesia, India, maybe even New Zealand. Basically, learning stuff that's just all blades, some stuff that he doesn't show in general seminars. It's kind of a closed group thing, so it's a rare opportunity. And then after that, there's probably responsibilities that's going to be given to me,
Mm-hmm.
and my association with him, my relationship with him is going to change, which I'm excited for from a Pacific Northwest representative perspective. So I don't know, man, but it's one of those things where it's if Zach Evans says, "Hey, I want you to train underneath me personally," in New Jersey, and it's not like a level 1, it's not like a level 2, it's something just you need to show up, and you're like, "Wait, what? Underground elite? Okay, yeah, dude, I'm in." And then you go, "How the hell am I going to make this happen?" So
Yeah.
that's what that GoFundMe thing I posted on Facebook is. It's like, hey, I'm going back to Guam this July. It's my 20-year reunion. My daughter's 3, and she needs to see grandma, grandpa. So she needs to go back.
Right on, man.
I just need to visit family. My dad's, is not doing too well. He's partially paralyzed from stroke and stuff. So I want to spend as much time. It costs about $2,000 to go to Guam. So I spent about $6,000 to buy tickets, and then this comes up. So it's like I need to find a way. So I heard about GoFundMe, and I'm like, let me just try it.
Hell yeah, man. I think it's a great idea.
I thought I'd do it, and I'm sure the knowledge and stuff that I can take back, and I can share that and bring here, and I represent. I make that pilgrimage back home. So I'm just asking people if they see value in that, or they believe in what I'm trying to do, then help out. Anything helps at this point. So yeah.
Absolutely, I think that's a great idea, man. I know that I definitely will add links to that to the bottom of this interview. We'll also post some links on the Mental Meatheads page, which you are more than welcome to to comment on, to post links yourself. That's what that forum exists for. I totally want to support this type of venture. I think this is a great idea, and who knows, man? I mean, there's a group of us down here in Birmingham who are digging the sticks and playing with that type of work. Maybe we can, once you come back and you're satisfied, we can have you come down here and do a little seminar yourself. So that would be fun.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm very excited about that. All right, dude. We're cruising at almost an hour, so I don't want to take up too much more of your time. But there's one last question I want to hit you with, and that actually has to do with martial arts, and it has to do with I think this ties in something very well with strength as well, because for those of us who are in both the martial arts and in strength, the desire to be strong, the motivation to do all this extra stuff that we do to build our strength and improve our strength, or to improve our martial ability, an outside person right off the bat doesn't get. Right? You know what I'm talking about. That they just doesn't really. They're like, well, why do you want to do that? Why do you need to be strong? Why do you need to be able to kick somebody's ass? Right? I mean, why is it important to you to follow those skills or pursue those arts? What's your answer to that? What is your answer? What's your why?
A couple. I'll give you my personal one, but I think I'll give you also an overview perspective of one. You can do 30 years of studying an art, but it's within those 30 years that you're going to use 30 seconds to defend your family, your daughter. I always tell people, have you ever had to do what you had to do? I go, well, I won't answer that personally, but let me tell you something, though. I'll study an art for 30 years and may never even use it. But then when that day comes, and there's been situations I've been involved in, both before the arts, during the arts, and I may face one again, because I do tactical firearms trainings too. So just to clear that up, I do a central access relock. I study that system. But if those 30 years, and for me to be able to hang 30 seconds so my wife and my daughter can get away to safety and live and move on and pursue life. My wife, I'm going to get a little deeper, okay? My wife and I already talked about this, and it's understood. If something ever happens and I'm in the street, whatever it is, and she's off to safety, and my daughter and her move on, and it's not about, I told her, you just got to turn around, go, let me take care of what I need to take care of. And I think where the arts and being strong, because you can be, Mr. I got all the skills in the arts, but if you can't even explosively throw things, if you can't hang in that high intensity interval type training, because that's what it is. If you've never banged it out in the ring or in an MMA fight or even done grappling for 2-3 minutes, trust me when I say this, it will kick your ass. And if you don't, I mean, I've got guys who do power strength training and then all of a sudden they grapple, they're like, dude, this thing kicks my ass because it's a freaking combination of all the energy systems. That's one perspective why I do the arts. So the second part is there's something innate in people like me and you that there's nothing wrong if you don't got that drive initially, but it's okay to develop that passion later. But I need to pursue that warrior spirit within me, because if I don't feed that, if I'm not constantly moving and making this brain think, then I'm dying. I don't know if that makes sense. If you're not moving, you're dying. And Zach talks about this in his blogs about the Navy SEALs, his blogs about just life in general. Everything in life's a battle. You'd be lying to yourself if you don't wake up in the morning and you're not faced with something. And to go through that, to battle through things like that, you're constantly having to draw from that warrior spirit. And you've got to be strong both mentally, physically, and spiritually. And sometimes drawing from that physical strength can then be applied across the board to your mental strength and your spiritual strength, if that makes sense. So
Yes,
I do what I do because it's innate. And if you don't have that, you better find a damn good reason why. Because it's those whys that give you that push forward. And so, people, I mean, look at yourself in the mirror. For those of you who are not martial artists, look at yourself in the mirror and say, are you satisfied with being that person? No, I want to be stronger. Okay. And if not, dude, I mean, really, how stagnant and complacent can you be in your life? And also, if you really think you live in a white picket fence of a world today, then you're fooling yourself too. So there's different spectrums of why I study. Family. One is for the art itself, and one is for self improvement. And I definitely JKD my system, my thought process. I take what's useful, I discard what's useless, but I never throw it away. It's in my back pocket because you never know when you need it.
Absolutely. Very cool, man. I appreciate that entirely. Belton,
Yeah.
I appreciate your time, man. I really do. I'm going to have to wrap this up. Believe it or not, actually, I've got a Wing Chun class that's walking in the door right now, so we got to get rolling on that. I look forward to, there you go. There you go. Dude, I'm telling you right now, these broad shoulders and trying to get those elbows into that center line is kicking my ass, man.
Your pok styles and your lop styles, right?
That's right. That's right, man. Right. Thank you so much for your time, man. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to continued conversations over on Mental Meatheads and through the Facebook. And I look forward to talking to you after you get back from the Philippines, man. That's going to be a hell of an experience, man.
There's a couple of camps that are coming back, and you might want to interview then. I'm going to the Modern East Hall of Fame. I'm doing a full contact stick fighting in June.
Excellent.
And I'm going to a Water and Steel, which is blade and stick, in August. So I'll be around this
oh, nice, man. Very cool. Awesome.
Cool. All right, man. Well, peace out, and you guys stay strong. Live strong.
Right on, brother. Have a great day. Everybody, this has been a Mental Meatheads. Oh, dude, I totally forgot. I always do this, and I almost got away. Final question is if I'm up in the Seattle area and I want to come train with you, how do I find you? So
warriorstrengthtrainer@gmail.com. So make sure it's trainer. Contact information is www.warriorstrengthtraining.com. So that's the difference there. And then I'm also an elite Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I'm one of the coaches there. I'm the head Muay Thai coach. So if you go through elite Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, any of those schools, there's about 3 or 4 schools up here. They know who I am. You can find me there for the martial arts. If you want to do some privates and stick fighting, just email me. Other than that, you can also contact me via phone, 425-445-9447. And like I said, if this thing happens with the gym, then I'll give you that information too. Very
cool. Right. Very cool. Excellent. All right. Guys, this has been a Mental Meatheads interview with Belton Lubas. Appreciate your time. You guys take care of yourselves. Have a great week, and I'll talk to you later. All right. Be good, man.
Okay, bye.